Know your mental health rights. Standards appointment availability. Brought to you by NAMI Yavapai County. You can find this and other mental health rights documents at mentalhealthresources.org. Standards appointment availability for all access members, but I think it would be a good guideline of what you could expect even if you have private pay insurance. That this is what the Medicaid, the government is saying is acceptable for the length of time. And it kind of surprised me that a specialty provider, they have 45 days to get you in. I was kind of surprised. I
Yeah,
think my experience is for specialty providers, and I'm not on access, is much longer than that. But still,
exactly.
I was surprised that it was as long as 45 days myself. What else stood out for you about the appointment availability standards?
That one stood out because of the same reason that you just said. Usually, with private insurance, it can take a lot longer than 45 days, especially right now when we're, going through the pandemic and it's getting better that way. But yeah, so that's nice to know is that you do have that 45 calendar day window to see a specialty provider. Um, and then of course, another very important one that I thought was the psychotropic medications and making sure that if you are in need of that, that urgency is going to be assessed immediately and they're not going to put you off. So that being that they are required to have it looked at no later than 30 calendar days from request is nice. And then, of course, obviously, if the member runs out of medications or there's anything else that they can probably speed that process up.
And because it says urgency will be assessed immediately, I'm thinking it's probably important if you call for an appointment and it's urgent that you use the right terms, that you really, I know some people go, well, okay, I can wait. Well, you need to not say that if you can't wait. If
Right.
it's really urgent, if it's really important, you really want, this is the time to really say what your needs are and not think about, if they're too busy or whatever. That's what they contracted with access to do, is to keep you safe and to keep you from declining, your behavioral health declining. So it's important that that you really explain. And personally, my default, and I hate this, but my default is if they say I can't have an appointment is to cry. And I hate that about myself. But I will tell you, it has worked for me. But it's not
Yeah.
something I do on purpose. I can't cry on
Right.
you.
Right.
But many times they say, oh, we don't have an appointment for
Yeah.
2 weeks. And because I really felt bad or whatever, I would start to cry and they go, we'll get you in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's where the urgent, they do have the two different categories, whether it's urgent or routine. And so if you stress to them when you're calling that it is urgent that you get in, then they do have those quicker requirements, like for instance, for the primary care provider, if you're experiencing something that you feel is very urgent, then it's no later than 2 business days of the request, which, is a lot easier to handle than within 21 calendar days. So yeah, so it's all, I guess it's just stressing the urgency of why you need to get in.
And the other thing is, like for primary care, if you have something that's urgent, you go to urgent care.
Urgent care, sure.
And for mental health, or when you have an urgent mental health issue, there are urgent cares for mental health, and they're called stabilization units. And so if it's not a crisis team, I mean, if you're in a crisis, you should call 911 or a crisis team. But if you're in that in between where you would maybe go to urgent care for physical thing, you can go to urgent care stabilization unit, and they're throughout the state for an urgent mental health issue.
Right. And if you can't get the appointment within your approved time frame, then you have to contact Access, the health plan, and let them know they're not doing their job.
Right. Right. So you contact your health plan. So that would be your insurance. You can call that number on your card, and you can say you're not getting an appointment in time frame. You could call, if it's a mental health issue, you can call the OIFA representative for your health plan or the state OIFA office. And that's OIFA, which is Office of Individual and Family Affairs. And every health plan that is dealing with behavioral health has to have that office, and they can help you. And they can also look into why you're not getting an appointment when you need it, or when it was they were supposed to give it. And you can also print off the Access OIFA one-pagers and take them to your clinic and say, here, it says you have to do this. And that should get some attention.
And if your concern is not resolved, then there's the resolution unit for Access.
Yeah. And you can, and then it goes into grievances, appeals, and whatnot. But personally, what I found is most successful for me and my loved one is to look for the leadership. So the president, the vice president, the medical director on the internet site, on the internet, and start calling those people.
Right. Just go to management. Yeah.
Go to management.
That usually works with any kind of a grievance. Just go to the top.
Remember to be, even though you're frustrated, to be as polite and as courteous as you can, because the person who answered the phone is not responsible for, most likely, unless you get to that person, but most likely is not responsible for the issue, but they might be willing to help. So make sure you're polite. And take a deep breath, just like when you call 911.
Exactly.
Right.
They go hand in hand. Always take a deep breath.